Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo. I am your host, the Harry Channel, and with me tonight are minions Sora Luna.
Good evening.
Serenity Star 13.
Hello.
It was me, Geodes.
Hola.
And adult supervision is being provided tonight by SkepTok. How is everybody today?
Good evening, everybody.
It's always good to have some adult supervision. I probably should get the obligatory announcement from the Home Office out of the way. I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to say what it says. Prospero has given up her permanent keeper spot on Thursdays so she can do IRL stuff, which means that Thursday is going to be the new wildcard day. Friday is going to be Sanguine, and the Wednesday that Sanguine is vacating will be the One-Ton Hammer, who's going to be having a new 1-hour show with a couple of standing guests. Well, co-hosts, I guess, more accurately. That's basically that. I mean, Prospero will be joining, hopefully, the Tuesday show and the Saturday show more often than not. So she's not going away. She just won't be hosting a show on Thursday. Did I miss any high points, Skep?
She's not dead yet.
She's not dead yet.
Yeah.
She's probably off having Lemonade Larry with her neighbors or something. I don't know.
I think it's to her credit that she has a happening enough life to actually have some challenges to her life, to make that judgment to say, hey, I need to put a little bit more time over in this category.
Well, wasn't there one stretch in the last couple of years where she was on, what was it, 7 or 10 days in a row, some crazy number?
It was it was the Prospero show for a week and a half. That's what I remember.
Yeah,
a well-deserved
hopefully she'll
break
be back.
is needed.
Yeah, and it's not like she won't be joining us, as a guest. So, if you are really sad about losing her particular type of snark on Thursdays, don't worry. We are not rid of Prospero at all. She's going to be around, just not on Thursday. So, with that aside, does anybody wish to unburden themselves?
I'm working on becoming more cynical so that I can jump into the cynicism gap that will be left by her not hosting on Thursday.
Well, your cynicism is not the same as her sarcasm. They really are totally different things. They're adjacent in the snark universe, but they're really very different.
They have a lot of they have their genesis in similar places. I agree. They're almost like different reactions.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mostly just deal in sarcasm.
Right.
When I'm being passive aggressive. So we all have our little thing. So anybody wish to unburden themselves before we dive into the huge pile of news that we have?
That's all I had.
Okay. Sora?
We have a new deck. It's very beautiful. Deck? Yeah.
Nice.
Very beautiful. And
it's too hot to use it. Is it that composite stuff?
It is cedar on top, and on the steps and everything. But the support is, it is still wood, but it's like when they composite make it heavy duty. But it's not the stuff that's treated because that leaches into the soil.
Yeah.
So it's just slightly sturdier than if it would be just pure wood. Without any of the waterproofing or whatever the crap that they put on it nowadays. But it is cedar and it smells divine, but it's too hot to use it at the moment.
No, that's going to be great. That's going to give you years and years of good service, I think. That's excellent.
It should be another 30. That's how long the old one lasted.
Yeah, no, cedar is good stuff. That's really fantastic if you can get it. And I guess the price of lumber's dropped a little bit. It isn't as bad as it was a few weeks ago.
Yeah, not in time for us, but that's okay.
Yeah. The price dropping was of no use to you. Awesome.
Yes. That's okay. What can you do?
Let's just get some Fs in the chat for Sora's pocketbook. Okay.
There we go.
You got anything, Serenity?
Right, nah, I'm good.
Nah, Geodes?
No, just my throat's still doing its thing, so we'll see how I hold up.
I'll tell you what. I will pace yourself, and I won't ask you to read any narration. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. All right. Let's see. We should probably begin at the beginning. Okay.
This McAfee.
If it ever loads.
Yeah.
Story of everyone's life. Let's see if this shit loads.
There we go. John McAfee dies by suicide hours after Spanish court authorized his extradition to U.S. Okay. John McAfee, the tech innovator whose name was synonymous with antivirus software, died by suicide, should be in quotes, on Wednesday hours after a court approved his extradition from Spain to face U.S. tax evasion charges. Officials said McAfee was found dead in his cell in Barcelona following the Spanish High Court's preliminary ruling for his removal to the United States. A Catalonia court spokeswoman told NBC News. McAfee's lawyer, don't care, said in a statement, John was and will always be remembered as a fighter. Well, he's remembered as a lot of things. Fighter is probably just one of them. We have a few supporting things to go along with this, but anybody care to comment on this?
Well, because of how colorful he is, there's a tendency to think, oh yeah, suicide, right? With some of the other nonsense they've asked us to believe. The thing about McAfee that strikes me is that he was actually crazy, bug-eyed crazy enough to off himself. He was that boop shooby crazy, and go on a 10-day bender, a bunch of liquid courage in you, and tie up a bed sheet when you get some bad news. It might have been something like that. Might have been something much more impulsive than people. I think suicide is often an impulsive act.
I think so. Sadly, in this case.
The permanent solution to the usually temporary problems. But this guy had just about no end of problems he was looking at.
Well,
I mean, sorry, Nate, go ahead.
I was about to say, me and Geodes and Sora talked about this at one point, and Geodes brought up a good point of he also could have pissed off someone of the Spanish cartels and they killed him off. Like, it's one of those things where it's kind of like, there's a whole host of shit that could have gone on. So I don't know if any of these articles talking about the crypto that showed up after he was declared dead, Harry?
I don't recall anything in the crypto arena.
Well, there's a crypto that supposedly, this is rumors, that showed up called Whacked.
Oh, God.
I'm not kidding. Some people are saying he set it up. Some people are saying someone did it because they have a terrible sense of humor. I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that out there. But I agree with Skep, too. It's
soon.
like, I think he's a little...
Well, the McAfee's lawyer told Reuters that the 75-year-old hanged himself in his cell. Gosh, does that sound familiar? It seems to be remarkably easy for billionaires to hang themselves in jail.
Yeah.
I don't know why this is. It seems to be the preferred method for billionaires to die in custody. The accused tax cheat was arrested in Barcelona airport in October 2020. He's been fighting rule to the U.S. ever since, telling Spanish authorities he's being targeted for political reasons. He still had an opportunity to appeal the court's extradition authorization, but it's a moot point now because he got a case of the SADS, and now he's dead. Now, this does seem a little odd because this does seem to be happening an awful lot, doesn't it?
You mean
to rich billionaires?
Yeah, rich eccentric billionaires offing themselves.
Well, there's also like Anthony Bourdain offing himself, especially after what his then girlfriend got found out later.
Asia Argento.
Not to go down that rabbit hole, but yeah.
Well, because it makes me legitimately angry. That woman is
But it's one of those things.
There's,
I wonder
there's
if
some women who are going to hell.
but it's a wonder if, like, because all of it seems to have at some, like, tangential, so I don't know if McAfee, whatever his name, was attached to this or not, but it always seems to be somehow tied a little bit to preying on younger people, because there's a lot of people who, like, because he found out about what she was doing, Anthony Bourdain did, with the younger underage person, Epstein, obviously, with Epstein Island. I wonder if McAfee was doing anything he shouldn't have been doing with younger ones.
He was a different kind of nuts.
Yeah. he looks at, that's
well,
a road hard put away
hanging
wet.
out in? Wasn't he hanging out in Brazil for quite a while?
That doesn't tell you. Nope, no stop.
Yeah, no, he has some interesting ideas about politics and stuff, but I guess it's all over now. Tax evasion, you know. So let's see. There are some tweets that were sent out that are kind of interesting. Not that tweets are necessarily news. John McAfee, I am content in here. I have friends. The food is good. All is well. Know that if I hang myself, a la Epstein, it will be no fault of mine. Alrighty then. And that's from the official McAfee. Everything seems perfectly on the up and up here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then we have this from Eric Weinstein. John reached out to me not all that long ago. I also will not kill myself. I'm not suicidal. Also, this is getting fucking ridiculous. This authoritarian turnaround, Epstein, Wuhan, ivermectin, fortifying democracy, UAP, climate, mostly peaceful protests, leaked tax returns. Yeah. So there's Eric Weinstein. So what do we make of this when somebody says, I'm literally not going to kill myself, and then they kill themselves? Do you think it's all just part of an elaborate ruse that he thought was funny? Or are we actually going to go full conspiracy theory on this?
The thing is like, if it was someone who was mentally all there, like, I think Eric Weinstein is mentally all there. I don't think McAfee is, so I can see him thinking that was funny.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things, like, where I believe much easier Weinstein, I don't believe McAfee. Because I think he probably thought it was a funny joke, because it's like, because people like him usually think they're in too much power or anything like that to actually think anything's going to happen to them. Like, it was the whole fact that he didn't even try to get out of the extradition, too, when he could have. Or at least he could have appealed, but he didn't. He was just like, nope, never mind. Because that seems like the actions of someone who's going to kill themselves.
I don't see any upside to him being killed, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
In the case of Epstein, there were a lot of famous people that, you know, allegedly had quite a bit to worry about if Epstein testified. But in the case of McAfee, I just don't see what the reason would be for somebody to want to off him. I'm just being naive. Can anybody think of a reason why it's easier for him to be dead?
It's exactly where I was going. What threat did this guy pose to anybody else? What pictures did he have? You know, what thing did he have over on other people? And I could not find that. I could not discover what that information was. I could not understand how this guy could pose as big a threat as was being made of, you know, over him to the people he had business relationships with.
Yeah, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. That's the thing. It doesn't make any sense for him to kill himself, and it doesn't make any sense for somebody to want to kill him. I'm trying to think too much about somebody who's obviously mentally unstable. Well, and I'm reading too much into it.
That's where I come down. Is I look at the guy and just say, I think this guy is just, overall, he was unstable. He truly was. We probably won't ever really understand much about the way that this guy's mind worked. It's probably a very interesting mind. And but he just got out over his skis. You know,
maybe,
too far.
Well, maybe the whole reason he did all of the things that he did, you know, from the tweets to killing himself, was nothing more than he figured he wanted to go out with a death that people would notice.
A troll,
you know,
a trolling death.
Right, he was just trolling everybody rather than, you know, spending another 15 years in a U.S. jail, and then 15 years from now there's an announcement and people are like, John who? Does he know that Norton guy? You know, what's the deal with, who's this McAfee guy? Because if he goes out now, then people like us start talking about him.
Great point.
And you know he's never really dead as long as we're talking about him.
Yeah, absolutely. Say his name.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have the information. I think this will be one of those deals where it either just fades into obscurity completely, or we get one big significant central fact that we don't know right now that says, oh, and we, you know, but I mostly think this will just kind of fade out of the public view.
Yeah.
My money's on the cartel.
Which one?
That's the real question.
Yeah.
A little bit
The
of this
medical
one, a little
cartel?
bit of that one.
Mhm.
The American Medical Cartel. I mean, Medical
There you go.
Association. Oh, never mind. Okay. Well, speaking of things that just sort of went to shit, we have this. A condominium in Florida decided to just sort of collapse. Have you guys seen the footage of this?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it's a little.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Think
And,
about how many people are in there. That's the thing that
There's
just
like-
made me sick.
Over 100 still missing.
Mm-hmm.
They're all dead.
Well,
Yeah, that's
during Loma Prieta,
sadly.
there was this freeway that used to run along the waterfront. It was the Embarcadero structure, and
Yes.
it was basically a double-decker freeway. And
Sure was.
a big stretch of that thing, the top just came down right on top of the bottom deck,
Pancaked it.
and it just pancaked like a mile's worth of cars.
Yep.
It
I
was,
drove
and-
that freeway every day for over a year. Sorry.
Well, even as a little kid, I remember being on that road thinking, if there was an earthquake, people are going to die here. If it was that obvious to me as a kid looking out the window, and I mean a little kid, I think it should have been obvious to one of the adults who was supposed to know what they were doing. But be that as it may, bad things happen sometimes, and apparently this thing happened, and there are still a lot of people that are missing. And there are fires burning in the rubble, and they're trying to track them down. I don't think the prognosis is very good for anybody that hasn't been found yet.
No, if
This
you're
is like
recording
the fires in London all over again with the stupid cladding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Supposedly there was a woman FaceTiming her husband on the balcony when it happened. Like she was talking to him and then the balcony collapsed. And he
shit.
yeah, that's gonna fuck you up for decades.
Okay, so everybody pretty much knows what happened, but now the background on it. Now, this is one of several stories I found. This is from NBC News. Engineer warned of major structural damage years before Florida condo collapsed. A consultant warned there was evidence of major structural damage below the pool deck of a Miami Beach area condo nearly 3 years before it collapsed. As officials continue to investigate what caused the deadly collapse at Champlain Tower South, officials in the Florida city's Surfside suburb late Friday released a trove of documents related to the building, including the consultant's October 2018 report. The finding from consultant engineer Frank Morabito also showed there was abundant cracking and crumbling in the underground parking garage of the 12-story building, which suddenly collapsed as residents slept in the early hours of Thursday morning. Morabito said the waterproofing below the pool deck and entrance drive was failing, causing major structural damage to the concrete structural slab below these areas. Failure to replace the waterproofing in the near future will cause the extent of the concrete deterioration to expand exponentially. The main issue with the waterproofing, Morabito said, were that it had been laid on a flat surface which had not been sloped to drain, so the water sat on the waterproofing until it evaporated. This was a major error by the original developers, he said. So, yeah, this is not good. Morabito also noted that several sizable spalls were noted in both the top side of the entrance drive ramp as well as the underside of the pool. The entrance drive and planter slabs, which included instances with exposed deteriorating rebar. Now, there are a lot of problems that happen when you put concrete together near seawater. And
Oh, yeah.
sometimes people
And-
get really sloppy.
Rebar turns to gelatin.
Oh yeah.
Now, there are instances where they've even mixed the concrete with seawater when forming it. And that has gone much, that usually fails a lot more quickly than this.
Yeah.
But the whole, I mean, essentially it's a huge sandbar that they've built all this stuff on.
Yeah, which
And
was
climate
not
change people are trying to say that, oh, well, with rising sea levels, you should expect things like this. Well, the sea levels haven't risen that much. But I do
Yeah.
think that it's inherently hard to put enormous buildings on a sandbar.
Well, also, I mean, the whole East Coast area. I mean, does anybody remember the story from a few years back with the house that collapsed due to sinkhole, where they actually couldn't get the guy out because he literally kept sinking lower and lower to the point where they actually just couldn't get him out.
Sounds like a metaphor.
He,
Well, I
he
mean,
was,
you have to be slightly more specific on like what state
Was he an
that
economist?
was. Yeah, really.
I think it was in Florida as well, but I mean, his bedroom collapsed in a sinkhole, and rescuers tried to get him out, but the sinkhole was actually getting deeper and deeper to the point where they actually eventually hit a point where they couldn't see him anymore, and eventually they just had to they abandoned any rescue attempts because it was just too dangerous. But it's one of those things where it's like that whole coastline along the Gulf of Mexico realistically has a lot of unstable areas to build across. So
Oh yeah. I mean,
Well,
it's not
sand
including
in-
like. Sorry, I don't know.
Sorry, I
why
was just going to say that sand is effectively a liquid. It's just a very slowly moving liquid.
Mhm.
So because of the way it's very complicated, the way the granules rub against each other, but it behaves like a liquid rather than a solid. It's fairly stable. And when you introduce seawater to it as well, you essentially have this slurry. Now, whether you should have a 12-story building on top of nothing but sand, I don't know. It's kind of nice to know there's bedrock not that far away, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Sorry, go ahead, Serenity.
I was about to say, like, you can look at the houses that are on stilts all along, like, the East Coast up toward Virginia and stuff like that. And it's like, let's put sand down. Water comes in, takes the sand out. Oh, no, the house is crumbling. It's like... But I'm going to bounce real quick just because I'm having terrible lag where I try to talk and you all don't hear me for, like, a few seconds. So I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
Over. Let's see. All right. So we don't need to go to radio stuff yet. So according to this this fine thing, it looks like they were actually trying to fix this building. So they were injecting epoxy and putting various kinds of repairs in there, but nothing seemed to actually be working. This building probably should not have had occupants in it if it was going the way that it was. And I believe the mayor is... I know this is a little too late, but they're going to start checking on everybody's paperwork to make sure that the rest of the buildings are up to date. I think there might be a lot of people looking for new housing here in the next couple of weeks.
You might just be right. That's a really interesting idea. If a whole bunch of housing got condemned pending reinspection, just that disruption would be a tremendous disruption to people. But if you have, any mayor who has that happen a second time on his watch is going to get criticized for not doing that, for not taking the draconian preventative measure.
Yeah, she already had her press conference today where she was saying this was going to happen. But this whole beach area is, let me see if there's the map here. But essentially, it's just a long island. So here's the image,
Okay.
and the condo location is here where the red square is located. And you can see this Miami Beach is essentially just this little barrier island. So unlike the houses on stilts that are on the beach on the mainland, underneath all that sand, you eventually do hit bedrock. But in the case of this, bedrock may be too much to hope for. It might just be a lot of densely packed sand everywhere. Anyway, I find it to be really interesting when engineering fails because it doesn't happen very often. Most of the time, the things we build work the way they're supposed to. So
People
when
don't
something
realize-
like this happens, it's kind of amazing and very unsettling.
No, it really is. And people don't realize the amount of complicated computation that goes into making the judgments about everything around you. Everything material around you is subject to material science and materials engineering. It's amazing how much safer the world we live in now is than just the world that I had growing up. We didn't even have independent grounds on our electrical outlets.
Yeah.
I still think of 3-prong plugs as newfangled, and most people don't even know a world without that.
If you talk to British people about their stupid plug standard that they have, they get pretty insufferable because if you think the American plugs are safe, the British ones they've essentially child-proofed every single one.
Yes.
You can't touch any of the leads because as soon as you push the thing in, it moves a little gate in the way, and
it's got little retractors and springs and gears and shit to protect.
Right, the plug is about 3 times the size of like an EMA L15, L5-15, I think it is, which is the normal plug that we have that just goes into the walls, the 2 and 3 prong ones.
Yes.
And this English thing is just this huge over-engineered health and safety wet dream come true. It's just like, God, did a committee design this thing or what?
I'm surprised it's not the size of a double wide trailer. That every plug isn't that big. We had to make them this size to keep them safe. Electricity is very dangerous. Well, okay, really? That's as big as a house, and I just wanted to plug this water and said, hey, it's for your safety.
Yeah, well, hopefully Serenity will come back because this would be the point where she's pulling up a picture of it to show it all to us. We lost our real-time fact checker. Oh, okay, there she is.
Thankfully, the internet does not take that long to boot back up around here. What am I checking?
Oh, we were talking just as an aside about the English house electric plugs, these massive over-engineered things, and we were simply saying that if you were here, you would probably already have a picture of it to show us what it looks like.
I will say one thing I love about the UK plugs in more modern homes, they now have an off switch, so to further baby-proof it. So you can only you have to actually turn it on to use that outlet. They have so you can keep everything plugged in. But you can only actually access it if you turn it on at the wall. I actually like that. That seems like a fun,
Oh God, I forgot how big these type.
We actually have those in our house, but not the European style. We actually have a 3-prong plug style turn off on switch on some of our outlets. So
that's
awesome.
Mostly a power saving thing. Yeah, because most devices that aren't up to current Energy Star standards will actually use just a little bit of power even if they're turned off.
If you would. Yep, there we go. The other type G is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. We don't need that much of your mollycoddling safety, Europe. You can keep your stupid plugs.
Now, I do have to say, in my house, we have GFS plugs.
It's got a couple of screws in there. That's what I love about that. you can't mass produce that plug without labor. There's a union job in that plug. Yeah, I know that.
No shit.
Fuck.
Yeah, no shit.
Two screws in every plug.
You know what?
Because that
beauty at every size. Stop size shaming the plugs.
That plug is thick. It's thick.
That bitch be thick.
That plug's that chunk.
Yeah.
It's a chunky boy.
It's a chunky boy. It's the big chungus of plugs. Well, can you imagine? Okay, so this doesn't seem ridiculous until you think, okay, your electric toothbrush, right? So it has the rechargeable thing for the electric toothbrush. It's only drawing like a watt to recharge your toothbrush, the little battery in it. So you've got 1 watt coming out of the wall, and for this you've got big chungus there that has to go in, and then you have to there's like a boot up process for the thing just to get it to get power. Just biting.
Does it make the Windows startup sound?
Your electric plug will be ready soon.
We Americans are not that weak. We do not need this level of hand holding.
No, it makes the old internet dial-up sound. Trying to get power. But no, I actually had a family member come from England, and we had the washer and dryer unplugged. In America, that looks like a Type G plug a little bit on some of the washer dryers, and they were like, "Why do you have two different? Why do you have an English plug?" I'm like, "That's not an English plug. It's not even close." You're insane.
Now let's move on to the next thing before I start talking about 3-phase power. Okay.
All right.
Now, Joe Biden, former Vice President Joe Biden. Let's see.
Good old Joe.
Good old moron.
He has announced a major crackdown on gun dealers. We are not changing the Constitution. We're enforcing it.
You have to know the Constitution first to be able to enforce it there, motherfucker.
Shall make no law breaching.
Let me enable something here. There's maybe why don't we just listen to
Enable the
Sleepy
Kraken.
Joe talk about it, and then we can come back to the article. Let me know if you can't hear this.
Okay, bring us the Kraken.
Own them. And I might add, the Second Amendment
okay?
from the day it was passed
Yeah.
limited the type of people who could own a gun and what type of weapon you could own. You couldn't buy a cannon. Those who say the blood of patriots, and all the stuff about how we're going to have to move against the government. Well, the tree of liberty is not water with the blood of patriots. What's happened is that there never been, if you want to think you need to have weapons to take on the government, you need F-15s and maybe some nuclear weapons. The point is that there's always been the ability to rationally limit the type of weapon that can be owned and who can own it. The last time we had data on this issue of who was purchasing guns was more than 20 years ago. 5% of gun dealers, turns out, in the study we did, showed that 90% of illegal guns were found at the crime scenes sold by 5% of gun dealers. 5% sold 90% of the guns.
And what does that have to do with anything?
Well, I mean, also,
what if
what's
it's
his
Cabela's? If it's just like the Bass Pro Shop. I don't know. Where do people buy their guns? Big box retailers.
Guns are bad. I'm going to ban them. I'm going to protect you from yourselves.
Also, just as a rebuttal to his cannon comment, there's actually cases of privateers and privately owning cannons back during the colonial era, so he's full of shit.
Yeah.
There's several cases of it.
Yeah, and I'm not exactly like a gun guy. We all know who those are. I mean, I'm in favor of all the amendments in the Bill of Rights, every single one of them. I don't pick and choose. And I even try pretty hard not to play favorites from the first all the way to the 10th. And it's not up to me to decide which rights people are going to be stripped of. So I'm not one of these guys who goes to the range all the time and kind of lives in gun culture or anything. But even I understand shall not be infringed.
Yes.
We have laws about people, for instance, voting rights can be taken away from felons. So we recognize there are classes of people that have some rights temporarily or permanently taken from them because of something they've done. And okay, that seems like there's plenty of prior art for that, and we could argue about whether that's still an acceptable thing to do. But for the most part, there's not a bunch in the Second Amendment that sort of gives him the kind of latitude that he seems to think he has. It seems pretty cut and dried. If you want to make an argument, it would be the militia argument.
Well, when you have a government that starts treating your constitutional rights as privileges, you're in trouble. So,
yeah. Well, that seems to be every government except for the U.S. government for the most part. At least our Supreme Court does a pretty good job most of the time. We don't have a notwithstanding clause like the Canadians do. And we don't have this ridiculous notion that the English do that you can't really pass a law that binds the hands of a future parliament.
Well, also,
It's like, no.
the
What?
thing is that there's after COVID started going and like the amount of people who own guns who are no longer the country, like my people, the backwater country hicks and stuff like that who own guns now, who are registered Democrats or whatever. Like, do you all not know how to do studies to read the room? There's a lot of people not happy about this, and it's not just the dirty, evil, backwater, hickish Republicans who are mad about it.
I believe Skep exclaimed because I poorly stated something about England. Is that what I just happened?
I just want to understand your comment.
Okay, my comment here. Let me give you a better version of my comment. As I understand it, the Parliament is the ultimate authority in the UK, and their system does not recognize things like our Bill of Rights that would allow you to basically constrain the will of Parliament. In their system, Parliament is the ultimate authority, so a Parliament can't pass a bill that would effectively hamstring parliaments of the future. They have no mechanism by which they can have something like our Bill of Rights. So when they talk about their constitution, it's all very wink, wink, nudge, nudge, because there's really nothing behind it. There's nothing to stop their parliament from being just as tyrannical as they want to be. There is no real check on them.
Yeah. There's no basis in rights like the powerful natural rights that stand in back of our system of government.
We were looking at you when we came up with our system of splitting things up, England.
How not to do it, basically.
Yeah,
you fucked it up. We wanted to do better, and we did.
In Canada, you guys had a chance, but
and you blew it right out.
And you blew it, and then you let the French people have too much control over stuff.
Oh wow! I do have to say, I would like us to do stuff the way they do their parliament, though, where they yell at each other, because I would pay to watch that.
Oh, that's the best.
Scream at each other. I would pay.
I want the good old fashioned days where somebody would cross the aisle and start beating their opposition with a cane. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But
I just
hands-on politics.
The American Congress, on the floor of the House of Representatives, wasn't it, or was it Senate?
I think it was the Senate. I could be wrong.
Well, there was a fist fight.
It was Charles. Was it Sumner? Was his name? I think it was something.
I think Sumner.
Anyway, he was like some South Carolina hothead, and they've had gunplay on the floor of the. I forget if it's the House of Representatives or the Senate again.
Southern congressman beats northern senator with a cane in the halls of Congress.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, it was during the Kansas-Nebraska Act.
Who were the principals? Who were the principals? Who was involved? Sir?
That was Charles Sumner.
Yeah, it was Charles.
It was Southern Congressman was Preston Brooks savagely beats Northern Senator Charles Sumner.
That's what it was. Sumner got beat up. And
I think AOC thinks that's still a thing that can happen.
They all do.
I think if we got rid of the filibuster and just brought back dueling, it might be a lot more entertaining.
Oh, yeah. I would live for that.
Enter the Senate octagon. 2 senators enter. 1 senator leaves.
Lindsey Graham and AOC fight to the death, and everybody's throwing the everybody wins party.
I can see it now. Somebody throws a sword that gets stuck a blade first into the middle of the floor and just says, "Have at it."
Whoever gets it first gets it.
Harry, real quick, can you pin Adam's comment with?
I sure can.
It was the one where you the nuke and F-15 comment.
Okay. Let's see where. Let's see Adam's comment. Adam. Oh, I think it. Oh, I'm in private chat. Okay.
Yeah, you won't be able to see it in private chat, by the way.
Yeah.
It's right above Ghost Dog 999.
Yeah.
Just keep talking. Don't wait for me to do something.
I think
I
we
was
made enough
awkwardly
jokes
staring at
about.
You talk
Come
amongst
on, Harry.
yourself. You know,
Come on, Harry. No.
there's a bunch of
There you
guys
go.
standing around watching one guy work on changing a tire.
What is
Yeah,
violence?
four guys are telling him how to do it. No, you're doing it all wrong.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah, I think
Ooh.
it's funny. People talk about multitasking, and I love talking to some of these people. It's like, I'm really good at multitasking. It's like I've spoke to you on the phone when I know you're doing one or two other things, and I can just hear your brain not functioning for 10, 15 seconds at a time. People lie to themselves about this whole thing about multitasking. It's like, because you know what? I'm actually paying attention to you folks.
It's less a matter of multitasking and more a matter of how often they've done this to the point where they can process it faster. So-
All right. So, well, I mean, certain types of things involve muscle memory. Me finding a comment and highlighting it is not one of those things. So there's that, and it just makes me sad. And I'm sure there's people who have a much hotter take on this than I do, but they're looking at the ghost gun things like this is the problem. You know, the problem is the guns or the availability of guns, not all the other things that are going wrong, you know, the basic health of a society. You can see, and when people are relatively well off and times are good, all sorts of things stop being as much of an issue. When you have policing where they respond to, every broken window? What's that policy called? The broken window strategy, where you essentially, no matter what the problem is, no matter how small, you respond with some sort of law enforcement response. Somebody shows up to at least take a look around. That has real benefits. When you start telling people that they can shoplift, and if it's less than $950, all you're going to do is give them a ticket, and nobody's effectively going to stop them. And the people who own the store aren't even typically going to bother to fill out the paperwork because there's no deterrent effect. Yeah, crime's going to go up. And when you lock people up and take away their ability to make a livelihood, domestic violence is going to go up, and violence against children is going to go up, and all sorts of other things end up being a problem.
Yeah,
But no, it's the ghost guns. It's the ghost guns. That's clearly what the issue is.
What you're talking about is called the broken windows theory, and states that visible signs of disorder and misbehavior in an environment encourage further disorder and misbehavior, leading to serious crimes. The principle was developed to explain the decay of neighborhoods, but is often applied to work on like educational environments, to do analysis of educational environments. But anyway, yeah, broken windows. Broken windows theory. It is a thing. It is a...
All right, so I'm going to put something in the private chat here. I'm having a little trouble with my virtual camera. I'm going to have to restart it. So would one of you care to load this article and share it?
Yeah, what you going to put this in private chat?
I put it in the private chat there because I have to kill my virtual camera.
Kill it with a gun, Harry. Kill it with a gun.
Yeah, no kidding.
Beat it to death with a cane.
Yeah. Let's go old school on this bitch.
Hang on. This may yeet me from the show. If I am, just let me back.
Nope.
Okay. Oh,
He wasn't wrong.
I'll let him back in.
I'm
Okay.
sharing too.
Okay. Sharing is caring.
Woo-hoo.
All right.
Sorry, I was.
So
had
here's
non-responsive
Sora's sharing it. Sora, would you care to read a little bit of this for us, please?
Sure. So Indiana woman pleads guilty in first Capitol riot sentencing. A 49-year-old woman from Indiana will serve no prison time in the first criminal sentence related to the January 6th riot at the Capitol, NBC News reported Wednesday. Anna Morgan Lloyd was sentenced to 3 years of probation in order to pay $500 in restitution after pleading guilty to one charge of misdemeanor disorderly conduct, NBC News reported, citing court records. Morgan Lloyd said she went to Washington on January 6 to support then-President Donald Trump at the, quote, Save America rally, and later posted about her participation in the riots on social media like an idiot, according to NBC News. At the hearing, Morgan Lloyd said she regretted engaging in the riots despite causing no harm to any individual property, NBC News reported. Can you stop saying NBC News reported? I
They
think
gotta
they're charged
whip
by
that-
the word or
You gotta
letter.
whip that NBC penis out. It's like, it's our story, you motherfuckers.
I would just like to apologize to the court, the American people, and my family, Morgan Lloyd said in brief remarks to Judge Royce Lamberth. According to NBC News, I went there to show support for President Trump peacefully, and I'm ashamed that it became a savage display of violence. A representative for Morgan Lloyd...
Savage.
Oh my God, savage.
A representative for Morgan Lloyd did not immediately respond to CNBC's request for comment. Morgan Lloyd is among the nearly 500 people charged in the riots, with 2 other defendants also pleading guilty on Wednesday at separate hearings, NBC News reported. Her sentence is likely to serve as a precedent for hundreds of other people arrested with lower-level charges. Among them are a Virginia couple who also pled guilty last month for the charges of misdemeanor. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Misdemeanor disorderly conduct. Joshua and Jessica Bussell have yet to be sentenced, but could face a maximum of 6 months in prison. And that just ends. Okay. There we go. I was expecting a bit more, but no. Okay.
I expected another NBC News reported.
Yeah, no.
That's what I was expecting.
Do you want me to
They do a lot of
more?
reporting. No. I mean, the gist of it is they've sentenced the first person because of the January 6th insurrection.
Well,
Just the disorderly conduct, and she's a 49-year-old grandmother from Indiana.
According to Rob Reiner, she should be executed for murder because she committed treason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tell that to the bitches who stormed the freaking Supreme Court after Kavanaugh was voted in. They can kiss my ass. That's my logic.
I just thought it was interesting that he was so bloodthirsty so immediately.
Oh, it's Rob Reiner's not the man he once was.
Everything is working again. Excellent. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, they talk about this thing like it was a major insurrection. I didn't see any F-15s or nukes involved there, did I? I mean, according to Biden, not that long ago, that's what you need to effectively overthrow the government. But a bunch of, I mean, there were a few bad actors in there that were more violent than they should have been. But there was also almost like a party-like atmosphere with these guys walking between the velvet ropes, including that guy who stole Pelosi's lectern or podium. I guess it was actually a lectern because you don't.
I'm gonna need this lectern. Yes, sir.
Here's
Go right ahead,
this
sir.
is going to fit in the overhead container on the flight.
I need shoes of the ladies.
Take this back to church.
Yeah, that's where it belongs and needs to be healed. Get the holy water, Betsy.
Yeah, well, let's see. So there's a video on YouTube now.
Well, let's just start with the January 6th.
Okay, let's just not go into autoplay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, please, let's
Okay. So this Viva Fry video, can you go ahead and link that, Geode, since you're our link master here?
Just did.
Okay, thank you, sir. So if you want to understand the legal situation that a lot of these people are in, I think Viva Fry did an outstanding job of this.
Yes,
And rather than us half-assing it, you should probably go listen to what him and his lawyer friends have to say about it, because some of it's pretty darn disturbing. They've taken people that didn't do a whole lot wrong, in my opinion, it just based on what my eyes tell me from the video I've seen, and thrown them in a deep, dark hole like they were the damn Rosenbergs. It's not... I don't think it's an exaggeration to say this is extremely un-American. And our system doesn't really mean a whole lot. You know, it's just a lot of nice words if we let them get away with crap like this.
Well,
it really is meaningless if we let this stand.
Well, it's like also when they started doing the arrests, because I have friends that for some reason were like, yeah, Antifa was there. I'm like, shut the fuck up. But anyway, there was one of the younger people that was that was from the area here in West Virginia, and his own mother reported him. and he has kids. And she was like, the news crew came with the police to arrest this dude. And she was like, please don't film the grandbabies. They didn't make a choice. He was an idiot. And it's like, no, you made a choice.
So hold on. Did this person you're talking about actually enter the Capitol building, or was he one of the thousands and thousands, or over 100,000 people that didn't do any such thing, that were just outside?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, everything I looked up for it couldn't tell me. They just said he was there and she reported him. And it's like, it's that constant thing that everybody's been saying recently. It's like, you were wondering how the Nazis got in power. Ta-da. It's like, we wouldn't let that happen. You literally are letting it happen. Nothing happened there, except for one woman lost her life.
Well, they should not have broken the windows. They should not have forced their way in. Whether they were allowed in or whatever,
that's neither
they
here nor
shouldn't
there.
have. They should not have entered the Capitol building.
Yeah,
I'm not
which I
making
agree
excuses for bad behavior any more so than I would make excuses for the people in Portland.
But when you consider what was done when Kavanaugh was made a fucking Supreme Court justice, it was nothing compared to what those crazy assholes did, or the day Trump won, or the frickin' riots, or the fact that there was a fire outside the frickin' White House.
Well, let's be very specific here. Yeah. Are you aware of the organization called Code Pink?
I think I've heard the name.
Okay, so Code
I'm
Pink,
intimately aware of these guys.
Okay, so Code Pink is an organization that has on many occasions essentially shown up at official government functions, like, the House of Representatives meeting, the Senate, that type of thing, and have staged demonstrations during the course of these things. So they're effectively on federal property doing something they shouldn't be doing. And to my mind, if you look at the list of things that they did wrong in terms of, they're asked to leave and then they have to be dragged out of there, causing the disruption, doing all this other sort of stuff, I don't see how Code Pink is really all that different than what most of the protesters who entered the Capitol building did.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially it's the same thing, right? Trespassing, interfering with the function of government, et cetera, et cetera.
Direct action.
Oh, actually,
yeah.
I think actually Assassin brings up a good point in chat. He has no one is being charged with sedition or insurrection.
Yeah.
Yet they're still in a deep, dark hole. I encourage you, Assassin, you want to look at that video link that Geode's just put up.
Mm-hmm. It's very good. The thing I'm actually thinking of is about last month, me and my folks, we've been watching Babylon 5, and there's a scene where John Sheridan gets captured and thrown in a prison, and more or less that's what I would describe as conversion therapy.
Oh, yeah.
There are four lights. Wait, yes. No, wrong show.
But yeah, honestly, it's sounding a little bit just so this is getting a little this is definitely not okay. This is not good. So
no. To contrast, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, can I bring up one funny thing about Code Pink?
Sure.
Code Pink is against foreign wars, and yet they were standing against Trump, who was trying to call everybody back.
Well,
does anybody find me? I know, but still, the irony. It's just like, we don't think we should be in foreign wars, and it's wars against climate change. Oh, wait, Trump said it? Oh, no, we can't do that. No, keep them there. It's like, how...
Every day's opposite day.
It's like, how strong is your beliefs if you change them?
There are a couple of things going on there with Code Pink. They're naturally going to take the opposing point of view against Trump because they are reflexively liberal, and that's just what they do. But the other thing is there's a very real vein of anti-Semitism that runs through Code Pink. They are deeply against Israel. They come out saying, well, we're just pro-Palestinian, but that's not really true. If you look into the items and actions that they have directly supported, directly supported with money, with logistics, with every way you can support such an effort, has been routinely pro BDS and anti-Israel. You know, they say, well, we're just anti-Zionist, not anti-Israel or anti-Semitic. But these days, if you say you're anti-Zionist, that pretty much means you're anti-Jewish, at least.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe and very likely are anti-Semitic. That's frequently motivated. It comes from that place in my experience. Anyway, I just want to get that out there. Yeah, they're scum. I hate Coping.
But look at the if you can share my screen here, like look at some of these
for some
incel
reason it's very
look at some of
tiny.
these incel motherfuckers. Like, sorry, it's just fucking funny to me. Some of these
Well, they look well adjusted.
Yeah.
The one dude in the front looks like, dude, I'm here for the pot. What the hell?
War is not
Oh,
green.
God.
That is.
Okay, well, speaking
is-
of pot and protesters,
Sorry, I thought it was.
no, you're fine. You're fine. Speaking of pot and protesters, not all protests are created equally. So we have this from the Willamette Week. District Attorney weighs prosecution of Portland police officer accused of punching medic at August 2020 protest.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so we've already indicted one person who was on the crowd control team, the response team, and then their entire team stepped down. They're still police, but they're not in the riot control team anymore. And so the district attorney is thinking, yeah, you know what would be good? Let's go after more of the cops that were fighting for 100 days to keep the city from burning down last summer and start going after them, because this is obviously where the attention needs to be paid. Yeah, let's see, a little bit of background. The Multnomah County District Attorney's Office is considering criminal prosecution for Portland Police Bureau Officer Thomas Clark, believed to be the officer who tackled and punched volunteer medic Tyler Cox during an August 2020 protest, according to multiple sources. Now,
They're not medics.
volunteer medic just means that he was with Antifa and he had a little shirt on that said medic, but he was basically in the middle of the crowd that was being told to disperse.
Yeah.
They give them a water bottle and some paper towels. That's what they give the medics. They give them a water bottle and like a cluster of paper towels or one filthy rag, and they go around, and it's interesting when one of them gets hurt, there literally are like 2 or 3 people around them spraying them with water bottles. I've seen this at Antifa events, and it took me the longest time to figure out what was going on. You had to look into it and find, they've taken to equipping them with spray bottles of water.
Oh, awesome. Yes, Geodes?
I was going to say, could we pin Funk's comment? Functional's comment.
You're going to lose all of our police? No, just all the good ones. There'll be plenty of police that just are donut-eating desk jockeys who are just basically counting the days till retirement.
Or they move to they move to like the more rural parts, like my part of the country and stuff like that, where they know.
Well, a lot of them are either going to move out of the big cities, or they're going to go to work for the private firms that will be doing the real policing. Because you don't think for a minute that people with money and influence are going to live without having police.
I think I definitely think at least sheriff's departments and stuff are going to be okay, because a lot of people don't want to live out in country rural side too much. And I mean, at least there's usually at least there's also kind of somewhat of an understanding that you will also kind of protect your own usually. So.
Well, when it takes 45 minutes for the police to show up at your place because you live far out into the boonies, the whole idea
you can't really get hurt in that period of time.
You don't want to
get hurt from somebody with a gun in that time.
You have to be prepared to deal with whatever happens in that 45-minute period. You accidentally shoot yourself with a gun, you better know what to do about it. You know, whether it's an Israeli trauma thing or a trauma pad or a tampon or whatever, you better know how to deal with gunshots as a first aid thing if you own a gun and you're in the country. And if you don't have a gun, then how are you going to protect your livestock and stuff? There's a lot of things that happen in the country that require some amount of firearms. Sorry, Joe, but people use guns. It's a tool when you live in the country.
No, No, exactly right. It is, even out where I live, which is the somewhat urbanified rural area just south of Dallas, Texas. Where it's just like a string of little towns, and then I live outside of one of those little towns. To get from the time you punch 911 to the time policemen showed up, best case scenario would be 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be best possible world. And more likely it would be more like 20 or 30 minutes. Somebody call from here, and it's that level of response. Unfortunately, I mean, it's much more Andy of Mayberry than it is SWAT patrol. And these guys, pull up. They expect just the fact that they're standing there in a uniform is going to intimidate away most of the trouble, and it generally does. Mm-hmm. But every once in a while, well, my point is that you have got to be able to take care of your own safety until Deputy Dog shows up.
You mean, well, because even if they do, it might just be Barney Fife where he gets that one bullet out of his shirt pocket.
Exactly. Hang on, let me get this out of my shirt pocket.
Andy!
Andy, I've got to hold the gun now, Andy. Here it goes.
Don Knotts. Anyway, it did give me an idea, though, because what would be better for defending a chicken coop against foxes than an F-15? I think we all need to get F-15s after what Joe said, because he said if you're serious about defending yourself, that's the level, right?
I could not believe that. This is supposedly, one of the most sophisticated people on Earth. He is in charge of the biggest, most powerful country on Earth.
Most popular president ever.
These are the witless mutterings of a man-child who is really leaving us. Mm-hmm. It would be sad if he weren't so evil. It's nice of God to make it easy to hate this man. And he is an awful human being. That's the thing you have to realize, is that Joe Biden is a piece of shit as a human.
Well, and the thing is that it's really funny because they are trying to copy Trump a little bit, or at least they're trying to train Biden to copy Trump a little bit, because he's trying to talk a big game, and Trump could back it up a little bit. No one buys for 5 seconds that Biden's scary. Nobody. It's like, bitch, go away.
Well, he's scary, just not in the I'm going to take on corn pop kind of way.
Yeah, scary that he's involved. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, look at this seamless segue that I've got here.
Seamless
scary.
Present.
Back to Multnomah County, the same district attorney that's going after this one cop has they've essentially dismissed 80% of the cases that have been brought against the protesters so far. 80%. Now, of the ones that they arrest, they're not going after, it's not like it's a huge sweep and they're just filling up the old paddy wagon and processing a whole bunch of people. They're pretty selective about the people that they actually lock up in these protests.
Oh, yeah.
Having spent as much time staring at coverage from Eyes On as I probably shouldn't have been doing, 80% of these people just get released. Are you kidding me? We've got video of most of these people. What exactly is the problem? Unless he's just not that into it. He's just not that into the part of his job where he goes after the protesters.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for you there, because what is going on when someone just completely neglects their job on that side, and then you see the overreaction the prosecutorial overreaction with the Capitol Hill protesters,
or St. Louis,
St. Louis, the same thing, just that there's no consistent standard of justice, and it's very fascistic the way that governments are simply applying justice according to how they feel politically. That's very scary. That is how the French Revolution happened. And these idiots just stupid enough to not learn enough from history to where they've got to actually spill some American blood, proving stupid ideas are still stupid ideas.
Well, it's possible that that the main problem here with the district attorney's office is that they're simply overwhelmed by the number of cases that were brought up. But, there's certainly a way that you can deal with this. You can try groups of them at once if they agree to it.
Yeah.
You can make deals with them. It's not like there's never been a time in history where we've had to deal with these kind of people before. So
it's really offensive that they, this is, can't possibly deal with this. Fuck you. Yes, you can.
Yeah. So of the nearly 900 cases, 704 were dismissed in the interest of justice. 108 had insufficient evidence. 61 needed follow-up, and 18 had some sort of legal impediment to the case moving forward. And a certain amount of that is understandable, but not 80%.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. It's making me sad.
interest of justice. Interest of justice. So, some judges' idea of justice, some very liberal justices' idea of justice.
Well, the term justice has been perverted to mean a lot of different things. They may mean social justice. They may mean that they don't want certain people to be in a school-to-prison pipeline, as they call it.
Exactly.
So, but Portland has a plan, and the plan is that you shouldn't give up on Portland just because of a little sort of stuff. Because it says here, anything can happen. We like it that way. Portland tourism bosses are slammed for taking out full-page ad in New York Times.
You don't know if
the
somebody's
riot hit city has an edge, but claiming locals still love it.
You may think you're going to the mall, but you'll be stopped and, killed by a mob. That's the kind of excitement we offer.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It's cute when they try.
The ad was created and purchased by Travel Portland, a private nonprofit mainly funded through a contract with the Oregon Convention Center. It claimed locals like the riot hit city's edge, adding, anything can happen, we like it that way. On last Wednesday's, Portland's 50-person riot squad resigned in response to the indictment of member Corey Budworth. We already know about that sort of stuff. The police union said the officers were set upon by 200 protesters and that Budworth had accidentally hit Jacobs in the head. Well, we both know that there was a small attitude adjustment exercise going on, but given the circumstances, I still wouldn't have gone after the guy. I wouldn't have indicted him based on what we see here because these protesters are dicks. So if you can't solve the problem, try to put a happy face on it. Just try to dress this up as come to exciting, mostly peaceful Portland. Because if you're going to throw a convention, if you have 1,000 people coming into town, there's only, a small chance that about 10 or 20 of them will get injured and won't be able to attend the convention because they got the crap beaten out of them by Antifa.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the Travel Portland leadership team list, and it's just hotels, holdings, hotel, CPA, airline, vineyard, just all the people, all the people who DoubleTree hotels, and I'm just like, y'all are fucked.
Well, I mean, what are you going to do if you're in their position? You can't make the city fix itself, so all you can try to do is just put as much just how much lipstick can we put on this pig and try to turn it into something exciting. What was the joke I made that with every you can join, you can tell people they can just join in, and when you show up, they just give you a complimentary map of all the federal buildings and a free Molotov cocktail, and they just say, here, go join in the fun. It's just like a carnival atmosphere, a mostly peaceful carnival atmosphere in Portland. Idiots. Okay, let's see. Enough of that nonsense. This is one of these things I posted because I was hoping Prospero would be here, but I think you guys can still manage to be angry. Make-A-Wish Foundation to grant wishes only to terminally ill children who are fully vaccinated. Now, this is really only for wishes involving travel, I believe.
Yeah.
So if you
Flights,
want to
yeah.
go, I really want to go to Disney World. Nope, you can't go to Disney World because you didn't get your vaccine. But I'm being treated for cancer, and I've got a white blood cell count of 2.
Yeah.
And the
But
thing
you're going to
is
make me
that
get a vaccine?
they can easily remedy that by having an RV, a special RV made, like a roadie bus, like one of those big ones that like pop stars use. And obviously, in some parts of the country, it's harder to make it to the coast if they want to do Disneyland or Disney World. But you can go other places. There's a lot of things you don't need to fly, right? But there you go. I don't know. It's hard. In the article, it does mention that they're trying to comply with airlines, right? But what about chartering private planes for that family, right? So
Right,
you
and they're not
have
even
a
going to do
specific-
any of this until September. So
Yeah.
even now, I mean, because you've even gone to a foreign country during all of this, right? So you're one of the. I think you might be the only person here who's actually traveled during the lockdown.
Yeah,
It's not
last
like it's
year.
impossible. I mean, you went to Europe.
It was very very easy at the time. I know they've changed. They've made things a little bit more stringent, but you have to wear. You're wearing a mask the whole time you're in the plane, the whole time you're in the airport. Depending on the country you go to, if you're staying more than 72 hours, they may have lowered that to like maybe 48. You do have to take a test. This is Germany, I should say. I flew through Germany. They're very, very organized, Germany. So they give you a free test. You don't pay for it. They'll give you a free test to make sure you're not positive. And if you are positive, then you have to quarantine in the country until you leave, only if you're staying at that time more than 72 hours. But if you're doing an overnight stay, you didn't have to do anything, which is, again, makes zero sense, because if you are positive, you've already spread it to everybody, regardless, like what's the virus is going to say, oh, you're only staying here for 24 hours to catch the next flight. Don't worry. I will not spread to anybody. You're safe.
Yeah, I'll hold my breath for the next day.
Yeah, but
Won't
anyway,
breathe at
so
all.
it's and at that time, no one was vaccinated, right? So it was just a matter of wearing, and it was just, you couldn't wear any of the masks. You couldn't wear a cloth mask or a vented mask. You had to have a medical mask, and the airlines provided it to you. So even in economy, you got a little welcome on board package with a little wipey, alcohol wipe, a face mask, like a medical face mask, and I think maybe a pair of gloves, depending on the airline you traveled with. Air Canada gave you gloves. But yeah, there you go. So they can do things without having to be vaccinated. I think the easiest one, honestly, because Make-A-Wish Foundation has money, is to just charter a private plane.
Well, they have money
for
and
the
clout.
family.
They probably wouldn't even need to charter the plane. They'd probably, even if they did, they'd probably get it at cost. They wouldn't pay the full stupid markup for rich people. Yeah. Now, when I was a little kid, long time ago, I went to Hawaii, and they would give you, they would basically spray you down with malathion type of thing. Because they were very stringent about people bringing in pests and things. So they would, as you would approach,
they would delouse
the island, they would basically just spray you down, like fog you for mosquitoes and stuff.
They did.
And then they would give you a like a hot towel to kind of wipe your face off after they sprayed you with mosquito juice. It's not like humans aren't clever and we can't figure out a way to make this stuff work, but they're just dying children, and what do we care, right? But keep giving these people money because, stupid. Okay.
That makes sense.
I will say one thing I was going to bring up was there's alternative organizations like a Special Wish Foundation, Wishing Well Foundation USA, Children's Wish Foundation International, and Sunshine Foundation. If you ever need an organization to donate to, and you're pretty revolted by this decision, donate to one of those. And when anybody asks why you donate to those,
Yeah.
Just point out this article or point out this video, whichever you prefer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they do some good stuff, but mostly it's the people who work with them. Like I've heard that Chris Pratt just really goes above and beyond. Not all the stars are as good as all of the other ones, but guys like Chris Pratt, he'll show up in costume as Star-Lord and just pay attention to all the kids in the hospital. You know, I mean, he's the guy's a real mensch. I mean, he's a good dude.
I'm sure there's plenty of good people working
with them, yeah.
This institution, but yeah.
But I'm sure he wouldn't. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to help some of these other ones. The only thing is, you want to make sure that they have enough clout that they can actually make things happen. And I will say, in the defense of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, if you had asked me to name an organization at the beginning of the day, I would have only known of that one, and I've already forgotten the names of the other ones you just listed. So maybe this would be another thing to add to the add some links to the chat if you would.
I can post a link right now if needed. So,
or we can add some after the show. We can add some after the show and put it in a pinned comment. So.
Yeah. Good.
All right. Onward and upward. Let's see. In our effort to get ourselves canceled, we have this story. Olympics' first trans athlete defies science and fairness in quest for gold. Now, this is the New York Post headline. This is not necessarily the opinion of the minions.
Defies science and fairness
in quest for gold.
In a one quest.
This is Laurel Hubbard from New Zealand, who is going to be on their Olympic team in weightlifting in the women's.
She's hot. I'm going to give her
very
that.
Heavy. Yeah, she's got a bit of a glow to her. It's official. For the first time ever, a transgender athlete has qualified for an Olympic team. New Zealand weightlifter Laurel Hubbard was selected for the national team on Monday and will be competing in the super heavyweight category in the sport. That's the Chungus category. Born biologically male and originally named Gavin, Hubbard transitioned in 2012 after competing as a male in junior matches. Hubbard's first competition after transitioning in 2017 was a blowout. The local New Zealand Herald reported at the time that Hubbard, 39, not 21, not 25, but 39, won the women's over 198-pound division in the Melbourne event, setting 4 unofficial national records in the process. Yeah, well, 39 at the time now. Now 42 or something.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. It isn't a coincidence that the first transgender athlete to make an Olympic team is a biologically male weightlifter now competing in the female division.
You mispronounced attention whore.
Yeah, I know. Now, here's a couple. Now, the the International Olympic Commission has some guidelines that they've come up with that are supposed to make this all fair. So if somebody they don't have to have their testicles removed, but they do have to have hormone replacement or hormone suppression therapy. And they have to have had that for a year. Because apparently if you take something that blocks testosterone for 1 year and you can get it below a certain threshold, that will make it fair.
It won't.
And there are people who will tell you that there is no scientific evidence that there's anybody who, after a year of that treatment, that there's any advantage to them being born biologically male. Unfortunately, the performance numbers kind of belay that issue. So this is basically a graph showing testosterone levels and sort of as a function of the population. So this big pink, or what color is that? Magenta. Yeah. Is that magenta?
Yeah. Magenta. That's dark.
Okay, let's go with magenta. This big magenta bell-like curve here is the male population. And, you can have as little as just a few nanomoles per liter. Now, the cutoff that's labeled as the Hubbard line is the IOC limit. Okay. So Laurel Hubbard has to be below that limit. Now, it says the Semenya line is 5 nanomoles per liter. Now, that is what you're looking at for somebody with hypoandrogenism, like a female who has an excessively large amount of testosterone in their system because of hyperandrogenism, Androgenism, yes. So that is a condition that some women have, and it gives them more muscle bulk than their other females that they've been competing against. So you can see that even compared to a woman with that problem, the IOC limit is double that. Double. And if you look at
So that should
women
take
with
into account any naturally
right. So this yellow line are women with abnormally high testosterone levels. Still, here's Laurel Hubbard over here. This is the Hubbard limit, and then here's women who have naturally occurring excessive testosterone, and then here's the normal female population. Way back here, and this scale on this graph is basically linear, so it's not distorted in any sort of weird sort of way. This isn't lying with statistics. So sorry, I'm doing a lot of talking. Let me show one more picture and then I'll let you guys have at it. I just gathered a lot of information here. This is a plot that was put together by researcher Emma Hilton, who actually has a very interesting Twitter page. So the blue graph are the men's heavyweight over 35 in this International Weightlifting Federation Masters World Championship, 2010 to 2019. So you see here's a plot of all of their cumulative lifts in the competition. So there's the men, and there, as if Laurel Hubbard was male, there's where Laurel Hubbard would appear in the overall performance graph. And then here in the orange are all of the women in that weight category above the age of 35. Now, I don't know about you, but this seems fairly conclusive in that we're essentially saying that Laurel Hubbard, in terms of Laurel Hubbard's ability to lift heavy things in sports competitions, is a fairly good, middling male weightlifter in terms of performance. I mean, there's just nobody in this female graph that's anywhere close to Laurel Hubbard's performance.
Nope, nowhere close. Interestingly, that's you look at the number of standard deviation. You can read into the trend line and see what the mean, the arithmetic mean is over time. And even though it changes over time, there's you can see that it doesn't really change much in the it's a generally upward trend, just like the male trend. And then so you get a good idea of what a what the average standard deviation, what the standard deviation from the mean is. And you look at Laurel Hubbard's score, and you see, just eyeballing this thing, it's at least 3 standard deviations different than the standard deviation for the mean for that function. At least. I could have brought a lot more information, but I didn't want to necessarily turn the whole show into just talking about this one topic. But in a number of the lifting categories, Laurel Hubbard was 50 to 100%, had 50 to 100% larger weights that Laurel was able to lift. Yes.
Than the next best female competitor. Now, you may say, I don't care. I mean, Laurel Hubbard can live their life however they want, but and I'm not trying to deprive anybody of their rights, but what about the rights of the women who have worked, in many cases, all of their lives?
Well, a cis white woman has nothing but privilege.
Well, in this case, I think the woman was actually Asian. I don't have the picture handy.
That's even worse.
But yeah, they knocked. This is a seat that somebody else doesn't get in terms of going to the Olympics.
I know. That just pisses me off.
And if you look at the statistical, because this is a 40-ish, this is a 40-plus-year-old trans woman. Now, if you said, what are the odds of a 40-year-old woman from New Zealand going to the Olympics on their team, the odds of that happening just based on age are, I think there's something like 1 in 390,000. If you look at the statistical performance based on age, it is insane for a biologically male female at that age to be representing a country in their weightlifting. Not that there aren't exceptional people who can do it, but it's extremely rare. And the 21-year-old women and the 24-year-old women who are the other people, they've found a way to take another person on the team. So effectively, that person who was going to be bounced is going along. How they're going to pull this off with the Olympics, I don't know. I'm not an expert in sport, but I can look at a damn graph, and to my mind, this doesn't look very fair to the women that are competing.
No, it's not fair. It's not fair. It's not even fair to Laurel. She needs to be told by society, basically, that pulling this kind of shit is not appreciated, and fuck right off.
Mm-hmm.
She needs to be told that, and in not telling her that, we're not treating her very well, in my opinion.
Well, I mean,
Well, the joke here is basically that men are actually so awesome that we're even better at being women than women.
yeah, that's the running joke. Yeah.
Oh no!
Sorry,
The
go ahead. I know
patriarchy
there's
strikes
other-
again.
Yeah, I know patriarchy's so strong. So, Sora, Serenity, do you have any opinion on this?
Yeah, I think it's dumb, and I think that she should be disqualified.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And specifically because, or better yet, let her compete in the men's division. It's just. I would never want to stop someone from having, competing from, if that's like saying, well, this is their job, right? They need to compete or else they don't have the job in this particular thing. But this is not, you are dealing with someone who recently is going on hormone therapy. So that means you have someone who their whole life has had the muscle building and all the genetic everything that allows men to have stronger, grow muscles, do all that nonsense, right? And versus
All that
all the women, biology. And then these women who work hard, they're suddenly saying like, excuse me. It's like it's the exact same thing as when you see in youth sports, the same thing where you have like trans athletes competing, like a male to female trans athlete competing in wrestling with girls, and they beat the shit out of their competition. Well, yes, because those women who have been training up to that point have not been training to compete with someone who's male or formerly male. It's probably a different training regimen, including probably steroids. There's at a certain level, you're never going to be able to compete against that, and that's not. This almost feels like it goes against the Olympic creed. The idea of what the Olympics should be.
Well, the Babylon Bee had a nice take on this. Motorcyclist who identifies as bicyclist sets cycling.
Yes, I saw that.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
That was wonderful. Did you watch that whole thing? Did you watch that?
I did. It's
I woke up one morning and I realized
it's pretty special.
Well, like to add a little bit to this, there's several articles, one by the Independent, one by New York Post, stuff like that is showing that support for LGBTQ plus T plus stuff is falling, and it's because, and at least the trans part is because of this shit, where it's like, you went through puberty, you shouldn't be anywhere near this.
Yeah. When
you compete against women. There's the story of the UFC fighter who is trans, who a few years ago bragged about cracking a woman's skull open after a fight, and was like, "I'm glad I did that kind of stuff." And it's like it's like the Biden thing. They don't realize they're not making it better; they're making it worse.
Yeah. Well, there's if I may also, I'm perfectly fine with them creating a male to female or female to male category of weightlifting,
Yeah.
and allowing them to participate that way. I don't think it's going to get much traction, frankly, but I'm perfectly fine doing it that way. But yeah, this is ridiculous. Also, I think Adam's had a comment a couple, like, three or four comments back. Something about getting kidnapped by aggressive lady redheads. That was pretty good.
That seems like oddly specific, Adam.
Oh, I'm still expecting to get kidnapped by some aggressive lady redheads. That was his comment.
Yeah.
Oh, and then he put, "Oh, I'll put up a fight."
Yeah. Exactly.
See, I don't mind. Yeah, like do I like that idea. Make a category, non-gendered category, right? So you can compete together. Sure. I mean, you should assign a lot of waivers just in case there's an accident. But
I think MTF and FTM need to there needs to be a trans category, and they all need to just compete against each other.
Yeah. Well, the other reason why I want that category too is because, like, with that last graph we were looking at, because they'll end up collecting statistics, and I want to see how many times we're actually seeing these people who've transitioned competing, and they're not actually competing at the highest levels of what their biological gender would have been, and see if really it was more weighted, and see also, because to me this feels more like, yeah, you never would have been able to compete at the level you are at your own gender too, so you transitioned. And granted, I know it's more than that, but yeah.
But that's the thing. You, at this point, this is where the disservice to this person comes in, because that is exactly what my first thought is. Not that they've had years of dysphoria, that they have mental illness, that when they started going to therapy, they realized this is the reason why, because they have years of issues, and what they want to do is to transition because this is their true self. It's none of that comes into play. My first thing is, here is, like you mentioned, it's a middling men's weightlifter, but hey, it's the record. He's going to be the record women's weightlifter. So that's the first thing. And call it unkind, call it cruel to think that way, but that's what it feels like for a lot of these athletes who are male to female and seem out of nowhere to come into it. Not like started, from a teenager and working their way up. Even that's a little bit to everybody else, but in this case specifically, this is what it feels like.
It's like I think it was like last year, the year before, up in New England. I want to say it was probably Massachusetts or Vermont or something like that. There were trans and male to female runners who started competing in the women's category because they were male to female. What I have to give the newscaster credit, the news agency at the time, credit for, was that they said that the guys, when they were men, couldn't even break the top 10 in the men's category, in the high school boys category. But the minute they got over to the girls,
take on it.
Oh yeah, no, South Park ain't wrong. But it's like, the minute they got to the women's, to the high school girls part of it, was the minute they started winning competition after competition after competition. And it kind of didn't so much say that this felt like they were just trying to make themselves actually appear good and maybe get college scholarships, but it hinted at it a little bit. And it's sad. It's really sad. Get good.
Yeah. Well, there's a this doesn't matter quite as much. It's Mission College, which is a community college in Silicon Valley. It's in Santa Clara, I want to say. Mission College has a 40-something-year-old trans female on their basketball team. Now, this person is easily a foot taller than anybody else out there on the court. And even at that age, playing against younger people is just sort of pretty much dominating everybody out there.
Yeah, it's Santa
Got
Clara.
hairy legs.
But in a sense, it doesn't really matter all that much because we're talking about community college basketball. It might be kind of unfun, but I don't think they're crushing anybody's dreams.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a dick thing to do. I'm sorry, I shouldn't use gendered language. but you know what I'm trying to say. In this case, we're talking about the International Olympics, and people do they practice all their life to reach the level of being a world-class athlete, only to get bumped from the roster by a middling male to female weightlifter.
Asshole.
Yeah, it's just just seems really, really, really wrong to me. Because go ahead.
The thing is with the Olympics, real quick, Sora, but like depending on which sport you go into, there's an age cap. So if this person, and I'm sure I don't think weightlifting has an age cap, but say it's a gymnast. What if a person takes away a gymnast, because I think they can only be like 24, 28, I think is their cap. What if they take that away from them? They had like maybe 2 chances to go to the Olympics their entire life to become something else and get that opportunity, and you take it away because, it's only fair because I have more. I feel like a woman. It's like, no, you were a man most of your life. Sit down and shut up. Sorry.
Well, I don't think being a male to female would give you an advantage in most gymnastics, though, because actually,
some of it
women's gymnastics. It depends, obviously. But there's a reason why men's and women's gymnastics events are as different as they are. That
exactly.
Like the rings and stuff, that's more of a male event. But
do
certain
women do
types
the
of
bars?
They do.
Well,
they do the uneven bars.
Yeah. But for instance, a lot of the tumbling and leaping and stuff tends to be more of the women, I think. Again, I'm not an expert on sport, so you're talking. I have very little interest in the Olympics at all, but I can understand what it's like to work on something all your life and have it just sort of be unfairly taken away from you.
Yeah, and that's
you're just not given the opportunity to compete.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah.
Anyway.
My other comment, and this is me being a little bit snarky, but if you think about also, there are certain cultures and religions that allow their women to compete grudgingly in the Olympics, and who do not view trans people as people or as women. What do you do in that situation for those cultures? Is it going to be one of those things where it's like, oh, it's too bad, they don't need to compete anymore, let's just get rid of all of those? Like, what kind of international incident that would occur should it happen? I mean, I don't know if anyone from the Middle East who allows their women to compete in the Olympics allows them to do weightlifting. No idea. Didn't look into it. But would that make a difference when, you might be, the consensus being like, okay, well, it's only females around here, it's fine. Would they view her as actually female? Or would they see that as someone against their religion or against the purity or whatever? And again, this is all said without much education behind it, but, that could also be an issue down the line. Maybe not in this case because it's one individual in one sport, but for the future Olympics.
Well, I have a data point that's I think relates to it. And Skep, tell me if I'm talking complete crap here. As I understand it, in countries like Iran, homosexuality is viewed to be a very, very bad thing. And they will sometimes give homosexual men the option of transitioning to be women.
Yes.
Because apparently that's haram, and not haram. That's allowed. That's allowed, and then it becomes okay in the eyes of their religion.
This is principally done in Iran.
Yeah, Iran's the one that does it predominantly.
Is that the only place that does this?
It's the only place I've ever heard about it. And it's partly because Iran actually has a government program to normalize your sex, and if you're born with the wrong sex and they see you practicing with a member of the wrong sex, the government assumes that you were born with the wrong sex, and they will surgically make it right.
Well, that's very progressive of them.
It is extremely progressive, and it's not optional. It's not even optional. You can't.
Well, your other option is just being dead. They give you it's a false
the other
choice.
option. No, the other option is to be thrown off a building, because that's what Muhammad. That's what a hadith says Muhammad uttered as he got up from breakfast one day. It's actually a true story.
Yeah.
But all cultures are equally beautiful. So I'm going to move on to the next thing just to keep this train on schedule.
Yeah.
So I was checking in with our friends at the Black Hammer organization, the BHOs, and I was shocked. The BHOs are doing really well. I got look, they're checking the browser to make sure that's good. Okay.
Always comfortable.
Now, the BHOs are apparently not on board with critical race theory at all. So we're entering into the less serious part of the show, by the way. Everything from this point forward is a little bit silly. And then I remembered that these guys actually are kind of black supremacist, racist types. Of course, critical race theory doesn't work. They don't want to coexist or have some weird power structure. So, according to the Black Hammer organization, it's undeniable the rise and fall of critical race theory was a fun dumpster fire to watch while it lasted, but it's finally time to let it die. If you stuck with us for a while, it shouldn't come as a shock. Black Hammer didn't spare any criticism for feminism or for intersectionality. The last theory that popped out of Kimberly Crenshaw's crusty coochie. That's lovely. Ugh. So it shouldn't come as a shock to you when CRT gets a spotlight and we have to call it out as worthless. Worse, in this fight for the colonized working class to get free, it is actively poisonous. They really, really, really don't like critical race theory. Critical race theory wants you to assimilate. And they have this tweet from Raytheon with their Pride Progressive flag thing up here. And they're not entirely wrong in their argument here. At the core, CRT sees race as a legal construct, an idea that is created and enshrined by the laws written and enforced by colonizers. It assumes that racism can be overcome by taking down old racist laws and putting up new laws in their place. Based off this assumption, it would be in the best interest of poor and working class colonized people to help reform the old and racist empire and prop up a new anti-racist empire, an empire where hand-selected colonized people can steer the drones killing Africans in Somalia or show off their collection of advocates for CRT. And it goes on and on and on. Ghazi Kodo is nuts. But yeah, some of these people just... Even people on the left are starting to sort of eat their own. They're not even a unified front.
Can you post up Functional's last comment? I think it sums up pretty
Let me see.
It's right above my. Yeah, there we go. Yep.
That should be on a T-shirt.
You'd get kicked off any platform. It's glad I want to do it, but I would get kicked off everything I sell T-shirts on if I did that.
Yeah, well, here you go, Functional. I know Functional is not here to represent himself on the chat, but Functional, this is for you. This is a class that you should definitely take at Cornell University. And it's Astro 2034, Black Holes, Race, and the Cosmos. Let's make this text a little larger.
What holes now?
Black holes. Holes of color.
If he took that class, he would drive down from Canada, even in pain, to walk in the classroom, throw the desk at the teacher, and then leave.
Serenity, would you actually, Skep, can you read this one for us? Because I think it would be nice if you would read this description.
Astro 2034, Black Holes, Race, and the Cosmos, Spring 2021. Course information provided by the Courses of Study 2020 to 2021. Conventional wisdom would have it that the black in black holes has nothing to do with race. Surely there can be no connection between the cosmos and the idea of racial blackness, can there? Contemporary black studies theorists, artists, fiction writers implicitly and explicitly posit just such a connection. Theorists use astronomy concepts like black holes and event horizons to interpret the history of race in creative ways, while artists and musicians conjure blackness through cosmological themes and images. co-taught by professors in comparative literature and astronomy. Stick that in for a moment.
So
This
and
course
again-
will introduce students to the fundamentals of astronomy concepts through the readings in Black Studies.
Hold on one second, Sora. What are you trying to interject with?
I was just going to ask how much is tuition in the U.S. again that people go into like horrific debt over?
Oh, this is one of the best schools in the world, and in this particular, this is where Carl Sagan used to teach. In the astronomy department.
Rolling.
Yeah, this is fine. Sorry, Skep, carry on.
Texts may include works by theorists like Michelle Wright and Denise Ferreira de Silva, authors like Octavia Butler and Nalo Hopkinson, music by Sun Ra, Outcast, and Janelle Monáe. Astronomy concepts will include the electromagnetic spectrum, stellar evolution, and general relativity.
Yeah, they kept saying, "Oh, it's never going to infect the hard sciences. All of this stuff, it's just you're just being reactive, and you're stupid for worrying about it."
This is what we call here science for art students.
Yeah, basically.
We all had to take one. We all had to take part of your undergraduate first year, or I mean you could take it in fourth year, but you need to do a science/math course, even if you're in the arts. And so the dumb science would be the science for art students because they don't need to know anything. This is exactly what it would be because it's part of Astro, so it's this is just a waste of time filler for your credits.
Yeah.
This is
Well, it's
3
like
credits, though. This is this is 3 credits. It's not a 5-credit class, but it's not like it's nothing.
Yeah. Well, it's like there's tons of social science courses in most academia now. I mean, I that was the only part I actually completed before I gave up on a bachelor's, and it's one of those things where it's like, if you trimmed all this stuff out and said to students, yeah, you don't have to take these extra courses. You get to keep your money, and you get to shave off a lot of extra time that you can spend on actual important stuff. I bet you would see education improve drastically.
All right. Well, this is terrible. How about the next thing, which is the last... Oh, wait. Oh, yes. Sorry, I got confused there for a moment. There's this thing in the Hill. Biden signs bill to designate the National Pulse Memorial in Orlando.
Oh boy!
This was where the Pulse nightclub shooting took place. So there he got all. Stop it! Got all this people together to sign this fine thing. So there's Joe.
Where are those top people?
Those are the top people now. The dress that Jill Biden was wearing seems to have gathered a fair amount of attention. People were wondering what the hell that was.
Yeah, it's not really a dress, is it? It's more like an abortion.
Well, as I put in the server, that looks like she stole the upholstery off all the couch cushions of the original Miss Biden and made it into a dress. That's what it looks like to me.
Well, I actually pulled some strings. And got an advance copy of what's going to be in the fashion page tomorrow in the newspaper. Because no, I did. I pulled some strings, and I have this. This is early copy. This is fresh.
Right.
This is exclusive to the
Harry
minions. I'm going to break the embargo right now.
All right.
Okay. Our elegant First Lady, the always sophisticated Dr. Jill Biden, is wearing a fetchingly festive frock, perfect for a night out at Ringling Brothers or a stroll in the D.C. Pride Parade. Don't forget, it's still June. This exquisitely tailored, Empire-inspired piece takes inspiration from Mary Quant and Gianni Versace, utilizing color blocking and pattern matching to an entirely new level. This design masterfully combines a diverse spectrum of colorful stripes, polka dots, hydrangea, and watermelon prints.
Oh, yeah.
Each fabric was carefully created by her stepson, Hunter Biden. According to Dr. Biden's Twitter feed, this was a Mother's Day present from Hunter, who also made it himself the night before using his grandmother's Singer sewing machine and a Simplicity 1-hour wonder pattern. This reviewer can't help but wonder how he managed to get it to fit so well. In another tweet, Dr. Biden states, "I'm so proud to be wearing a Hunter Biden original. She is clearly envied by the people around her for her haute couture style. Look out, Melania. You have some tough competition here."
Wow, no kidding. She's so much better looking than Melania.
Yeah.
My
And
God,
that's
what improvement.
totally legit and not made up by me and some of my friends.
Well done, Harry. Very, very well done. That made me laugh all the way through.
So, I'm wondering, there is a brand, I think it's Spanish, it's called Desigual. And they make hodgepodge patterns like this. That's their shtick. And for some of the items are quite cute and stuff, but others look like that. I'm wondering if that's what it is. Like, legitimately wondering if that's the brand, because that is not a good way to have your label. Or
is the waist ridiculously high, or has her chest sagged that much?
Yes.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on?
There's so much bad going on there that
it doesn't
mind
fit
real.
her. She's the first lady. Get a freaking seamstress in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Buy a bigger size and have it taken in. So
She
that
doesn't
you
have
your
to look
right-
like a barrel.
Oh God.
She just is awful. She looks like a truck driver, for God's sake. 55-year-old guy who's been eating nothing but McDonald's for 30 years. She looks dumb, like a dumpy piece of shit, like everybody's Karen nightmare. She really kind of is.
And she's dressed like a $2 whore is what she's dressed like.
Those look like drapes.
Yeah.
That looks like upholstery.
Seat cushions. She looks like a seat cushion took human form and stood up next to Joe Biden.
Yes, exactly.
It's so weird, like looking at it, because it looks like they were intentionally trying to make certain things match to make it look like it was different dresses in a way. Because if you look at her sleeves, like her sleeves match the skirt and look like they should go with it, but there's like the underlay, and then it looks like she's wearing a sweatshirt, and it's weird. It's like it makes no sense. Like Melania got blacklisted by so many high-paying, like high-end fashion like houses, and still managed to dress well. What the fuck is this bitch's excuse?
Yeah, and speak 5 languages, etc., etc.
Yeah,
Melania, you can say whatever you want about her, but you can't
What
claim
I
that
love
she
is
didn't know
when
how
they
to
come
dress
back-
herself.
What I love is when they come back and say, she didn't speak 6 languages. Her German wasn't that good.
It's like,
Yeah,
oh my
yeah.
god.
Yeah, you're right. It's just-
Really?
Talk about getting
Speak
bitter.
German. Speak German.
Do you think Biden will ever get a chance to speak Spanish, like what Bush did at that
He
one?
doesn't speak
Oh
Spanish.
god, please
He
don't.
doesn't speak
Let's
Spanish.
not.
It's not Spanish.
The thing
That's
about
not
Bush is he
recognized as
had Spanish speaking people in his family. People in his family
Yeah.
had actually married people who spoke Spanish as their first language.
Oh yeah,
And he
And
had
grew up around it.
grandchildren. He had grandchildren, who were part Hispanic. And he
Yes.
loved his grandchildren. Bush may have been terrible in all sorts of ways, but you can't call him a racist, and you can't say he didn't love his family. So
So I mean, there were jokes that he spoke Spanish better than English, as I recall. So it's almost sort of like, yeah.
fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, fool can't be fooled again. A lot of the Bush sayings were just fantastic, but he had a really great sense of humor. The fact that he nicknamed Karl Rove Turd Blossom is just the funniest thing.
Yes. That's talk about a name that will stick.
I love
And a
it.
turd blossom is a type of flower. They get them in Texas. They basically, when a cow leaves a cow patty, there's a
Right.
certain kind of flower that likes to grow where the cow patty gets
Blossoms
deposited.
out of the turd.
It's a turd blossom, and so
And they're real
Rove,
light. They're very light colored. They're white or very bright light green color.
but it's a great metaphor for Karl Rove when you consider how he was doing damage control for stuff all the time.
Turd blossom.
Yeah, take that turd, turn it into a pretty flower.
I would like to address something here, and that
Sure.
is everyone else is staring at Biden and going like, "Oh no, what's he going to say next?"
And Jill just looks dead in the eyes.
You're right. They don't quite look impressed. do they?
Yeah.
I know it's supposed to be probably a solemn moment, but still, it's like.
I cannot find who made that dress. Where the fuck did you get that thing?
Well, does anybody else want to say anything nasty about Jill Biden's dress? Because if you don't, we are
I'm
done
good
for the night.
I
Yeah.
could go full hateful gay drag queen if I wanted to, but I'm not. I'm just trying to figure out who makes it so this way I can troll them.
Okay.
That's all I'm trying to find out, and I can't. And no one's owning up to it. Like no one is claiming that dress.
So Geodes has been putting in the extra work of compiling the minutes for the show in terms of the time offsets and getting a link and putting all that together. And I will be posting it as soon as I can right after the show, now that we've got our act together and Geodes is taking care of that problem for me. So everybody, let's thank Geodes for all that hard work that he's been doing.
Thank you,
Because
Geodes.
it really helps.
Yeah, no problem.
And now that we've officially recognized his contribution, is anybody have any final thoughts they would like to share?
I'm gonna just hit you with one. This comes from Epictetus is his name. He has a tricky name, Epictetus, and he said back in the days of the ancient Greek philosophers, there is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. I think that may have been one of the earliest expressions of something that is referred to in AA as the Serenity Prayer. It's interesting that the Greeks got that right that early on.
Well, they knew a thing or two about the human spirit.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So there
Anybody
you go.
else? Well, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm just saying I think I'm right there with functional. Where I'm like sometimes even idiots know when fire is hot. So
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I love the change.
Thanks for having us on. Thank you so much
no
for
problem.
having us on.
Thank you all.
Here.
It was it's always fun putting this on. I get a lot of help from everybody, but it's very rewarding when a show goes well, and I definitely couldn't do it without all of you guys. And with that, the zoo is closed. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.